Travis Burke had only said one word. Just one, and everything, crumbled like a building wired with quiet explosives. The word wasn't caught by the cameras. Not fully, just the breath before it. The split-second dilation of the pupils of the man sitting across from him, and the silence that followed like a chasm opening under the boardroom floor. That morning, Travis walked into HR expecting a handshake and a title Vice President of Brand Operations, Midwest Region. A promotion interview, sure, but everyone knew it was just a formality. Until that word. Until the supervisor, Greg Lancer, looked at him like he'd spoken something he shouldn't know, like he'd touched a part of the company no one was allowed to remember. The file had no label. It wasn't supposed to be on the glass conference table. The room had been cleared minutes before. It was thick, bound in twine, water-warped at the edges like it had been buried. When Travis picked it up, Lancer didn't speak, didn't blink. Just watched him open it, slow as a crime. Inside, black and white photographs. Old employee rosters. Some faces scratched out. One page near the middle had a name circled in red asterisk, Catherine Doyle, asterisk. Underneath, a sticky note with a single sentence in a woman's handwriting, frayed and shaking at the end. Asterisk, don't say it out loud. Don't even think it. Asterisk, but Travis had already said it. Whispered it, actually, almost involuntarily, like the name had surfaced from his own subconscious. Catherine Doyle. Lancer stood up so quickly his chair slammed against the glass wall. What did you say? He hissed, his voice not angry, afraid. Like he'd just heard a long-dead voice echo through the wrong decade. In that instant, all warmth drained from the room. The air turned heavy, humid with something that didn't belong there. Then he walked out, left his phone, his laptop, his keys. Just walked out barefoot, eyes unfocused, mumbling to himself. No one has seen him since Security pulled the tapes. What they found didn't make sense. On the footage, the sound drops out at the exact moment Travis speaks the name. Every second after shows Lancer, frozen for 3 full minutes, not moving, not blinking, just staring at Travis. And then, the moment before he leaves, the cameras glitch. A static frame, a blur, behind the glass door that wasn't there before. Something tall, watching. Later that night, Travis's 14-month-old daughter, Lily, woke up screaming from her nap. His wife ran in, frantic, and found the child curled in the corner of her crib, eyes wide. When she finally spoke, it wasn't baby talk. It was clear. Asterisk, she said, not to say her name again. They haven't taught her to speak full sentences yet. By morning, the file had vanished from the office. HR claims there was no scheduled interview. No one named Greg Lancer works or ever worked at the company, according to internal records. But Travis still has the sticky note. Still remembers the cold sweat, the way Lancer's mouth moved without words, the static behind the glass. There's one last thing. The building's new security system, AI integrated, caught a fragment of audio, one unfiltered clip buried deep in corrupted metadata. It's just a voice, feminine, ageless, soft, but not gentle. The voice says, asterisk, he was never supposed to remember me, asterisk, and today, Travis got an email. No sender, no subject, just a file attachment. It's titled, Re Catherine Doyle. He hasn't opened it yet, but he will. Travis stared at the screen. The subjectless email pulsed faintly, like it was alive, like it was waiting. The attachment Re Catherine Doyle sat in the inbox like a threat disguised as a breath. He didn't click it, not yet. His hands hovered over the mouse like they might trigger something more permanent than a file opening. His daughter's voice echoed again in his mind. Asterisk, she said not to say her name again. She shouldn't have known how to form that sentence. She shouldn't have known that name. Behind him, the baby monitor cracked once. A clean digital snap, like a finger across a microphone. Then silence. Travis didn't turn around, didn't breathe. Slowly, with the kind of dread that grows from remembering something just as you're about to forget it again, he reached toward the speaker. It cracked again, then hissed. Not white noise, not static. Something else. A breath, but not human. A wet inhale that lingered too long. Then the smallest voice his own, from a recording he didn't remember making. Whispering her name again. Catherine Doyle. He slammed the monitor off and sat back, trying to keep the room from spinning. But it was already tilting, subtly wrong. The walls too wide, the air too thick. The timestamp on the baby monitor footage played through his head, asterisk 2:17 p.m. That was the same moment, exactly, when Greg Lancer had vanished. That's what the timestamp had read on the surveillance footage from the office. 2:17 p.m. The next morning, he went into work, or tried to. His keycard didn't register. The scanner beeped red 3 times, then went dark. The security guard at the desk, someone Travis had seen every day for 6 years, looked up blankly. Can I help you? It's Travis. Travis Burke. The man's brow furrowed. Do you have an appointment? Inside, the lobby had changed. Subtle things. The logo on the back wall was a different font, a shade darker. The receptionist was someone new. He stepped back, checked the plaque by the elevator. The company name was correct, but the date on the employee calendar behind the desk was off by a day. June 25th. It was supposed to be June 26th. He pulled out his phone, June 26th. Clear as daylight. He showed the woman at the desk. She smiled too icily. Time zones, she said, without explanation, without looking at the phone. They glitch sometimes. He left before anyone could say anything else. The way they looked at him to calm, to practice, like someone had rehearsed what to say to a person they weren't expecting to walk back in. Like the man who left yesterday wasn't supposed to return. That night, the email was gone. The file, deleted, not just from his inbox, from the server, from the backups, from the cloud. He searched every folder he'd ever made, every archive, nothing. The file never existed, but the title still sat in his memory like a splinter under the nail. R.E. Catherine Doyle. And then a knock. It came at 1:43 a.m., slow and deliberate, 3 times. He checked the baby monitor. Static, no sound, no video. Lily wasn't crying, she wasn't even there. He ran to her room, empty, crib, undisturbed. Not a blanket out of place. But her favorite stuffed rabbit, the one she wouldn't sleep without, was gone. The front door was still locked, deadbolt latched, but his phone had a missed call. Unknown number, voicemail, 5 seconds of breathing. Then a whisper, soft, like it was in the room with him, asterisk, she's not lost, she's remembering. Asterisk, by morning, the police were called. They found nothing, no signs of forced entry, no prints, but the officer who took the report paused at the name. Catherine Doyle. He repeated it twice, under his breath. Why does that sound familiar? Then he blinked, and the recognition vanished. Never mind. That's when Travis met her, or maybe re-met her. A woman named Sarah showed up at his door a day later, claiming to be with corporate security, something about post-incident psychological verification. He didn't let her in at first, but she showed him a badge. Not a company badge, something federal, blank logo. Numbers only. She asked him what he remembered. He told her everything. The file, the whisper, the name, the disappearing, his daughter's voice, the glitches. She listened without blinking. Then she opened her briefcase and placed a recorder on the table. Listen to this, she said. It was his voice, from 2 weeks ago. A meeting he didn't remember. He was speaking calmly. I made her up. His voice said, Catherine Doyle was never real. She was a stress response, a construct my mind created to process guilt. I never said that, he said aloud, backing away. She didn't answer, just clicked the recorder off. Trauma creates patterns, she said. Memory fills the gaps with whatever shape we need. Sometimes it's ghosts, sometimes it's gods. Then she paused. And sometimes we build the ghost into the machine. Travis stared. What the hell does that mean? Sarah looked up at him with something between pity and fear. It means you weren't supposed to access that file. And now you have 2 options: believe what you saw, or believe what they tell you saw. Who's they? She didn't answer, just stood, buttoned her coat, and left the recorder behind. As she stepped out, she said, but if your daughter remembers Catherine Doyle, she's not imagining her either. The next day, Travis's wife found him in the garage, sitting in the car, engine off, doors closed, talking to someone who wasn't there. When she asked who he was talking to, he looked confused, then terrified, then angry. I wasn't talking, he said. She was. That night, the baby monitor turned on by itself. Static again, then a crack, then Lily's voice, clear and calm. Asterisk, Daddy, Catherine wants to know why you forgot her again. Asterisk, the story didn't end there. It twisted. Because when Travis finally brought the recorder to a friend, an audio forensics expert who used to work for the FBI, he was told something chilling. This file isn't a recording of your voice, the man said, pale as bone. It's a synthesis. Something mimicked your speech patterns. Almost perfectly. But the formant waves are slightly off. Like an AI, or a voice trained off memory. Alone. How is that possible? Travis asked. The man looked at him. Quiet. Then he asked a question that chilled Travis to the root. Do you remember who you were before the promotion interview? What do you remember? Anything. Birthdays, childhood, college, your parents. Travis opened his mouth to answer, and empty crib, Lily's rabbit on the floor, and the sound of someone breathing. Not a baby, not his wife, someone else, closer than he thought. Behind him, the screen flickered. A single phrase appeared across the top. Asterisk, 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 you already said her name. Now, you have to remember why. Asterisk, 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 and everything he thought he knew was a lie. They made him forget. Travis didn't sleep after the feed ended. He sat on the edge of the bed, his body limp, eyes locked on the faint glow of the monitor that refused to turn off even when unplugged. It stayed on like it needed him to see something, like it had more to say. The image had stopped moving long ago, frozen on the crib, and the stuffed rabbit on the floor. Lily was gone. But something about the silence told him she wasn't far, not in the physical sense. It was worse than that. He felt her presence in the room, like when someone is just behind your shoulder but doesn't want to be seen. He didn't speak, he didn't move. His breath came too loudly in the stillness, like it didn't belong to him. The next day, the emails started. They weren't from the same sender. They weren't from anyone. Each message had no body, just subject lines. Asterisk, asterisk, we found it again. You signed it in 98. Asterisk, asterisk, stop looking. Travis, asterisk, asterisk, every few hours. Another one. Different timestamps. One came from 2036. One from 1971. All of them contained the same attachment. A .jpeg file labeled Doyle residue _v4, but they were all corrupted, just blank static when opened. Still, he saved them. Something told him not to delete anything anymore. Sarah hadn't come back. He called the number she left disconnected. He searched her name online, on LinkedIn, even used an old friend's FBI database access. Nothing. No Sarah in corporate security. No agent matching her badge number. He checked the security camera footage from the day she visited, and there was no one at the door. Just him, opening it, talking to Air. He was losing it. Maybe until the knock came again. Not at the front door this time, but from the attic. There had never been an attic, not once in the 12 years they'd lived in the house. But that night, after the second monitor glitched and let out a low-pitched frequency that made his eyes water, he noticed something. A rectangular outline above the hallway light. Dust disturbed in an unnatural arc, like something had climbed out rather than in. He pulled the ladder down slowly, feeling like a child disobeying a parent's final warning. Every creak of the wood beneath his feet sounded like an answer to a question he didn't remember asking. The attic was empty except for a single item, a VHS tape labeled asterisk, Doyle House Intake 3. September 6, 1998. Asterisk, the same date as one of the email subject lines. The same year he remembered nothing from. He didn't have a VCR, but when he blinked, there was one already plugged into the wall. Beige, dusty, old but on. Waiting. He watched the footage alone. It was surveillance style, shaky, black and white. A girl, maybe 6 or 7, in a pale dress, sitting on the floor of an unfurnished room. She wasn't speaking, just rocking back and forth with her head tilted, repeating a motion like someone winding an invisible watch. There were men behind the camera, whispering to each other. Greater than she keeps asking for him. Who? Burke. He's not scheduled until. Wait, how the hell does she know his name already? Travis stood up so fast the chair crashed behind him. He rewound the tape, played it again. That name. His name. Burke. He would have remembered something like this, wouldn't he? There was no girl in his childhood, no recordings, no memory of ever being watched like that. Unless it wasn't his memory. Unless it was hers. The girl on the screen stopped rocking. She turned to face the camera directly. Her mouth didn't move, but her voice, his own voice, played back through the speakers. Asterisk, don't you remember what you did to me? Asterisk, the power went out. In the dark. Something shifted in the walls. A scraping, not animal, intentional, like fingernails tracing a seam. He stood in place, the air thickening with a scent he couldn't place, sweet, rotting, familiar. A childhood smell, the kind tied to a locked closet and an adult who wouldn't meet your eyes. He ran to Lily's room. Threw open the door. Empty again. Except this time, the monitor was working. Playing a different video, not the crib, not the house. It was the boardroom, the promotion interview, but not the one he remembered. Greg Lancer sat calmly across from him, but this version of Travis was older, hair thinner, wrinkles deeper. He looked exhausted, not physically, spiritually, like he had carried something for decades that had just started to decay. He said the name again, Catherine Doyle, but this time, Greg didn't react. Instead, Greg leaned forward and whispered something unintelligible, too garbled to hear, and then pointed to the glass wall behind them. The camera angle shifted. Behind the glass, a hospital bed, a comatose girl, electrodes on her skull, and beside her, a woman who looked like Travis's wife, only older, worn down, reading from a folder. Greater than asterisk, subject still believes he is the father. Memory correction incomplete. Asterisk, the feed cut out. Travis dropped to the floor. False reality, or a false self. Either way, the mystery felt like it had cracked. Like it had all been some deeply buried trauma, some memory experiment gone wrong. Maybe he was a patient. Maybe he had made it all up. Sarah, the glitch, the file, the whisper, the classic breakdown, dissociation, identity loops, hallucination. It would explain everything. It made sense, but then he checked the timestamp on the boardroom video. It was dated tomorrow. The resolution unraveled like wet paper. He started digging through every document in the house. Old tax records, property deeds, hospital files, and in one box, tucked between his marriage certificate and Lily's birth documents, he found a file. A single page stamped in red. Doyle Cognitive Containment Agreement, Rev. 6B, at the bottom, his signature. The ink smeared as if he'd signed it in a rush. But next to it, a line that stopped his breath. Greater than asterisk, all memories prior to April 3, 1998, have been temporarily sequestered under Ethical Clause 9.3. Reinstatement will trigger containment collapse. Asterisk, there was no April 3, 1998, In his mind, not even fog, just white dot, and then the dream came. He was back in the house, but it was hollow, stripped of walls, open to a black sky. Lily was standing in the center of the floor, looking up at something that couldn't be seen. Her voice came out like a whisper inside his teeth. Asterisk, she says, we're not real, unless you believe we are. Asterisk, Travis woke up screaming, but the sound didn't leave his mouth. It played through the baby monitor instead. The next morning, his wife packed their things. Said nothing had been right since he started chasing ghosts. That Lily had been gone for months. That there had been a funeral. She showed him the obituary, his daughter's face printed next to a candle. A tragic accident. No suspicious causes. But Travis didn't remember any of it. And the rabbit, her rabbit, was still in the crib. Clean knew nothing was right. Nothing had ever been right. He went to the address on the intake tape. 1417 Doyle Road. The house was still there, but it wasn't a residence anymore. It was part of a closed psychiatric institute. Fenced off, government signs. Warning of radiation testing. But from behind the gate, he saw her. The girl, same age, same dress. Rocking. Still. But when she turned, it wasn't her face. It was his. Smiling, he stumbled back, vomiting into the grass. Bile rising was something else. Memory, not of a person, of a place, a basement, a door locked from the inside. Screams, not in fear, but an effort, someone trying to be remembered. The man who vanished, Greg, wasn't the first. He was just the first to get too close. And Travis, he hadn't been the observer. He had been the origin. One final detail shattered everything. In the edge of the original interview footage, the one from the day he said, her name, you can barely make it out. A figure, reflected in the boardroom glass. Too tall, head tilted, not quite standing, not quite crouching. Watching, always watching. You can't see its face, but you can see what it's holdinga. Stuffed rabbit and the badge clipped to its coat. Asterisk, Doyle Cognitive Restoration Program. Subject handler, T. Burke, asterisk. The whole story, all this time, hadn't been about uncovering Catherine. It was about remembering what he did to her. And suddenly, nothing before the first file ever felt real, not even him. It started with a mark barely noticeable at first. A small, circular symbol carved into the wood grain of Travis's front door. Low to the ground, like it was left by a child or someone crawling. He hadn't seen it the night before. And it wasn't a scratch, not accidental. It had symmetry. An eye shape closed in a ring of lines that didn't match any language but felt, instinctively, like a word. Beneath it, in faint red, asterisk, you were right, all along. Asterisk, Travis didn't open the door. He stared at it for nearly 10 minutes. Heart stuttering with a familiar rhythm like the one he used to feel before a blackout in college. Seconds before, the world spun and memory split in half. That same weight. A knowledge pressing at the skull. Someone had been there. Someone who knew not only what he'd signed but what he hadn't yet remembered. By that afternoon, more symbols began to appear. Not on his house, not on his car, not even in the real world, but on people. Faint bruises on their necks in that same eye-ring shape. Scratches on subway advertisements. Graffiti in underpasses he'd driven through his entire life and never noticed until now. The pattern repeated everywhere, always subtle, always watching. Some were clearer than others, 3 dots inside the eye, or a vertical split like the shape had been torn apart and mended again. It wasn't just a symbol, it was asterisk, a warning. For those who could finally see asterisk, and once he did, he couldn't unsee it. At first he thought it was paranoia, residual psychosis, maybe the aftershock of memory collapse. But then the messages started. On his mirror, steam written during a shower he took alone. Asterisk, she's still inside the system. Asterisk, on a receipt from a gas station 3 towns over. Time stamped 3 minutes before he arrived. Asterisk, we are watching to see what you do next. On the inside of his windshield, written backward in the frost. Turn around, Travis, you've already met one of us. Asterisk, he stopped going outside. Instead, he pulled old hard drives out of storage. Devices from decades ago. Thumb drives, camcorders, even a scratched CD labeled asterisk Spring Break 2004. Asterisk, nothing should have been on it except college footage. But when he played it back, the video opened on something different, entirely a wide shot of a girl in a hospital gown. Sitting beneath fluorescent light, she was much older now, her face partially obscured. But her voice came through, dry and distant. Greater than asterisk if you're seeing this, the failsafe didn't hold. Asterisk and then static. Not digital artifacting, analog. Snow. White and gray waves like the kind from a broadcast long dead, struggling to return. Behind the noise, he could hear a second voice layered beneath the static. Faster, chopped up, not meant to be caught unless slowed down. He did just that. Ran the audio through filters. Pitch correction. Temporal smoothing. A voice emerged, whispering, greater than asterisk, you're not the only one. We all signed the same contract, and none of us remember doing it. Asterisk, he played it again and again. The voice was his. But he'd never recorded that message. Later that night, he found a handwritten letter on the kitchen counter, sealed in wax, no envelope. His wife was out. The house was locked. Lily's room was cold and still. The note was addressed to no one, or everyone. Inside, 4 lines. They gave us dreams not our own. Greater than we speak in symbols because the words are dead. Greater than asterisk, she remembers. For us all, greater than you must wake her up before she becomes the machine. Asterisk, he didn't sleep. Couldn't the dreams returned, not as hallucinations, but as shared memories. Others were in them now. People he didn't know, men, women, children, all with the same bruised symbol somewhere on their bodies. They stood around a body on a table, not Catherine. Him unmoving, eyes open, mouth silently screaming. And over them all, a tall figure in a coat with a split badge, its face wrapped in analog film, unspooling slowly across the floor like entrails. Travis woke with blood on his tongue, a new scar on his forearm, 3 vertical lines forming the broken version of the eye symbol, as if something had been taken or returned. The messages became louder, more direct. He began receiving voicemails from numbers that didn't exist. They were all under 5 seconds. A woman's voice, asterisk, asterisk, do you remember the elevator in 2002? A man whispering, they cut her voice from the data. That's why she speaks through your child. And one he couldn't make sense of until it was too late. Don't let them seal the 3rd gate. You've already opened the first. 2. Asterisk, asterisk, he thought this was a breakdown. He prayed it was. Until he met the observer. It wasn't a scheduled meeting. It wasn't someone he recognized. It was a bar in a nowhere town off the I-5, the kind of place where time felt optional. The man didn't give his name, just sat beside him and ordered nothing. After minutes of silence, he said, greater than you're asking the wrong questions. Travis didn't respond. Greater than you keep thinking this is about her, about Catherine. It's not. She was the canary. You were the miner. Travis turned, but the man still hadn't looked at him. They used your memories as a map. That's why they needed you to forget. You weren't a witness. You were a source, a cartographer of trauma. Travis asked who they were. The man chuckled once, dry and thin. Greater than they don't call themselves anything. Names leave a trace, but they've been here a long time. Since we started recording things we couldn't explain. Since we built machines that could dream. And then he finally turned to look at Travis. His face was almost Travis's. Not a twin, not a doppelganger, but the version of him that had made a different choice. The version that had never signed the contract. Before Travis could speak, the man reached into his coat and handed him something wrapped in cloth. It was a piece of film reel, burned at the edges. As he unwrapped it, he saw the single-frame Catherine, asleep, wires in her temples, lips parted midst. On the frame, scratched into the surface. Asterisk, asterisk, she's not sleeping, she's listening. Asterisk, asterisk, then the man was gone, no exit, no trace. That night, Travis woke to find his reflection still staring at him even after he turned away from the mirror. It blinked once, slow and offbeat, and then mouthed for words. Greater than asterisk, we are already here. Asterisk, he smashed the glass. But the reflection remained. Not the broken pieces. The whole reflection. Still watching. The symbols are appearing faster now, everywhere. In street signs. In TV static. In the faces of strangers who meet his eyes too long and seem to recognize something in him. A familiarity that goes beyond coincidence. They're the others. They were watching the whole time. Maybe you are too. Maybe you've seen it. A glitch in the corner of your eye when you pause a video. A word whispered from your speakers even though nothing's playing. A face in the background of a home movie. You never noticed until now. The story was never just his. You were always part of it, and if you go back, watch again you'll see the signs were there from the beginning. The date on the email, the reflection in the glass, the way the baby monitor always turned before something happened. One last message arrived just before the signal cut out. A subject line only visible for 2 seconds before deletion. Asterisk, asterisk. Found footage from 20 years ago. Don't let them bury it again. Asterisk, asterisk, but it's already happening. Somewhere in the background of your mind. Something's waking up. Not a ghost, not a memory, a system. And you've already said her name. They're listening now. The screen flickers, not because it's broken, because they know you're watching.